AJ was enjoying the night shift. His promotion at the A&P was going quite well. Why, he had all day and all night, well, at least most of the day, to seek the frolics of the merry month of May. And he did. Often. A lot! AJ was having the time of his life. Why, he was on the night shift. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2. Didn't make a difference to AJ. He'd be frolicking till the day was long. Frolicking into the evening. Especially if things was promising with a siren song. Well, AJ was having the time of his life. Working a night shift at the A&P. It was a routine night. Wasn't much to spare. Just a handful of grapes, all in their crates. All we had to do was stack them up by color and design. There was 3 kinds of grapes. Well, you got your white grapes, you got your red grapes, and you got your other kind. You only had about 20 or 30 or so, but AJ was having the time of his life. And counting wasn't his idea of a good time. No, sir, not at all. But he should have been accounting, because by now he's had a whole 4 weeks of the night shift, and the moon done come in full and got, and the moon done come in full again. And I forgot to even tell you about the old neighbor AJ here. Well, he had his 57 Chevy he was trying to restore. Must have belonged to his granddad. Something he loved dearly anyway, because he was spending all his free time trying to restore it to his former grandeur. While the progress was being made for a project going into its 2nd decade, and that truck was a ripping and a roaring, and America would have been proud. Japan, too. Why, that truck was running as if it was brand new. Brand new every day, twice on Sunday. And it was a glorious time for his name. But it made it a burden for our Mr. AJ to get his slumber. Quite a burden it was. Especially when he only needed an hour or 2. Well, that's about what he'd give it. If he was grand, he'd show up in an in-state of the land. The night shift was wearing on his soul. Yes, sir. Done had a 2nd full moon on the A&P night shift. Lucky for AJ, bumped into an old pal that used to hang out with. He remembered him because of all those episodes of the exotic mushroom tea. They had fun together. They used to make it back in their old place, they did. Well, the guy was a mushroom hound. Knew everything there was about the LSD or any of those kind of things. But this fella here had put together a monstrous brew. Well, this set of tea came from Peru. It was potent. Very potent. He told AJ not to touch it. He was sending it to his friend who was attending a Fairfax festival, and people who were grand. On his way out the door, AJ grabbed the wrong thermos, and he carried with him that exotic tea. Only had about an hour and a half sleep, and he just drank the coffee, which was actually mushroom tea. He was feeling pretty good when he got into work. So all he had to do was stack a few crates, clean up the room, and the rest be left up to his imagination, which he found to be a nice set of affair. Oh yeah, he began to stack them crates and move them and sway. While AJ was working as if he was throwing a no-hitter. Well, I must have had 100 crates
Had to put 'em up by design. Got the red ones, got the white ones, got the other kind. Only 3 kind. Only problem was he was seeing 3 by 3 on account of that exotic mushroom tea.
Oh, yeah. And while he was a-stumbling and a-bumbling and messing up the affairs, old A.J. noticed there was a spider from a rainforest came swarming out of that crate. He'd been in there a little while. Found out he was a little thirsty and had him a sip right by the sanitizer stand. Well, the old spider leaned up against it and sized up the room. Figured he wasn't in too much trouble at all. AJ didn't pay him no attention. He was stacking there in crates, even though he was still seeing 3 by 3. That's right. On account of that exotic mushroom tea. Well, the spider was getting a little happy and a little bit kind of happy and sad at the same time. Noticed his arms was growing a little longer than he was expecting. All of a sudden, the spider felt nauseous. Why? He wasn't sure if he should have drunk that tea. That little purple sip by the sanitizer stand kind of messed up his digestion a tad. Well, certainly it must have been that. And who is that lad over there? That little lad stacking them crates. Let me go ask him if he's got a seltzer or something, because I feel like I got a bellyache. And the old spider did. He had a bellyache from drinking that stool right on the sanitizer stand. It wasn't nothing mean about him. He just had a bellyache. And he was from the rainforest. All that DNA. All those desires to conquer. Well, just look at him. He was so grand. He was a good-looking spider. Spiders go. Oh, yeah. Then the spider noticed that his arms was getting a little longer. His tentacles started to whip like a whip. All of a sudden, he was getting bigger and bigger. Then followed him a whip. It was about the size of a little small dog. AJ turned around, saw him, and kicked him. Went on his way. Spider just kept growing. A little here, a little there. A little here, and a little there. And the spider noticed he was getting bigger. He also noticed he was getting better looking and smarter, started figuring things out. All of a sudden, whenever he wanted to, he'd throw some fine streams of green flames in his snout. He was just throwing out for fun, no real reason, just impressed that he could. All these newfound powers the spider had, well, he was feeling pretty good. And getting bigger, and a little bigger, but now he's about the size of a big dog. AJ walked up and stopped stacking them crates, turned around when he had a chance and kicked the dog straight in the shank. Oh boy, the spider knew now that he was throwing it down. The spider knew he was from the rainforest, and the challenge was on. He wrapped a tentacle around AJ's neck, pulled him into the fight. He did. AJ swung back with his natural instincts and was doing the best he could, considering he was hanging in midair from a tentacle spider of about 10 feet tall by now. He was not only getting bigger, he was getting smarter and meaner. And he was always thirsty, and the spider had been challenged, and he was not going to back down from a fight. While his family had been in the rainforest and his land, the indigenous ones, and had never backed down. It was in their DNA to fight to the end. He was challenged to fight his own. A tentacle started swaying here and there, lashing at AJ with a whip. It was snarling at him, and AJ would throw back at him with a knife, a shiny one if he could. A sharp one when he can find it, and whatever he can find in a produce room at 2 in the morning at A.M.P., he was throwing at the spider, and they were fighting and tangling and sweating, and spider spit was everywhere. AJ was covered in a venomous rainforest foam.
Lucky for him, he was in a white coat lad. The battle was on. To the wee hours of the morn did they battle. For Napoleon would have been proud of the way they swiggered and swaggered. Oh yeah, it was such a glorious sight. Why, as battles go, it was a delight. But the Spider was winning. And why? Because he was bigger and smarter. He was winning. And he was meaner and angrier. He was from the fucking rainforest. And he was going to conquer. And AJ was from the neighborhood that did not give up because it was not an option. He was storing everything he could find, and suddenly he was out of tools, and there were no more weapons to be found. A bare produce counter, and the rest are ashen debris, as the produce room was destroyed from all creation of its original apparition. While there was no crate unturned, no ice undumped, no lettuce undried. As produce rooms go, this was a disgrace and a disaster. And it was almost 5:15, right when the produce man and the staff were due. As the clock began to tick, the Spider didn't care about the clock. He was playing nickety-knock. He was enjoying lashing at AJ with his tentacles, and he was still growing. And now he had world aspirations. He had already forgotten that AJ was climbing the building. The alarms were going off. The Spider now must be stopped. But AJ found one weapon on the counter. A little spot without debris. The one little spot that had exotic mushroom tea. Little thermos, the handheld size. AJ Memoir's quarterback coach taught him and threw it as far as he could. Hit the open man. And the Spider caught it, and it was a beautiful tandem, and they'd be mighty proud. The bear would be happy. The Spider made the catch. And LSU was winning the ball game. And the Spider grabbed that old exotic tea and looked at AJ. The conquistador in him. And he smashed his tentacles against AJ's side. And then his breast. And then decided to have a sip of tea. And he drank the exotic elixir prepared from the mountains and centuries of spores. And despite his valiant DNA, it was no match for what this tea brought. And soon he had vanquished the entire glass and tossed it to the side. The thermos was bent from the impact of the strong Spider. He was certain that tea had made him even stronger. In fact, it did give him a sense of delight to realize that although he could crawl through the vents and knock the walls down, he could take over the entire town. The Spider decided to walk back one more time and decided to spit a little leftover slime right at AJ's feet. The floor dissolved from the potency of this vile dripping. Yet the Spider seemed to be slipping. Yes, he was indeed. The Spider wasn't slipping. Why, he was big and grand. By design, he was a Spider from the rainforest. He would have been a grand creature under anyone's terms. But one sip of that exotic mushroom tea just didn't do much but disagree. And the Spider began to shrink. I suppose it was a painless process as the air went out of the balloon. The Spider took the little tunnel and rested.
Right then, the men from the produce department walked in, along with the superintendents and the managers and all the kin, while the mayor himself, the police department, the fire department, the EMTs, everybody that had a uniform on ambulance with lights on it was there to investigate this affair. AJ tried to explain. He tried to tell him just what was beheld. He told him all about the battle. An echo it was by now. And the explanation was considered insufficient.